So today, we're playing some mono green. Except this is mono green Munchy rather than mono green Stompy. This is a slightly more mid-rangey version of mono green. So, can this deck take a big chunk out the meta? Let's find out. And again, if you enjoyed this video, maybe you could sling it a like. If you really enjoyed the video, maybe consider subbing. And if you really, really enjoyed the video, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Links are in the description. So here we are with the deck list, and I think initially you can see that this deck obviously has like a huge amount of parallels with normal mono green aggro. All I can say is thank God we're past the whole Pelt Collector into Barkhide Troll into Lovestruck Beast into Questing Beast. I'm glad those days are gone because that was a horrendous curve to play against with like really any deck, but now we're in a more balanced meta, a more sensible meta. I think it's safe to say that a deck like this can actually compete like super well. This deck managed to get into numbered mythic, and honestly after playing it you can totally see why. It has a really good amount of coverage, and yeah, I mean like every deck it has its weaknesses, but ultimately like the deck is super powerful, and against the decks that are like being pushed such as like rogues and mono white and Gruul and mono red as well, this has a fantastic matchup against creature decks. So yeah, it's actually it's really, really good. So what kind of aspects do we have in the deck? Well, ultimately, it's kind of just a combination of like, here's some good mono green staples, and here's some like food adjacent cards. And with food adjacent, we've got Gilded Goose, Trail of Crumbs, Wicked Wolf, and 3 Feasting Troll King. Some builds are playing 4, I think I understand why 3. It's really highly costed and it's not going to come up like super much, but like you do get to play this like on curve or better, and this thing's actually so fucking good. Now, not only do we have Goose, we've also got Tangled Florahedron. This allows us a little bit of extra ramp, because getting out our threats earlier than an opponent is another way this deck can do super well. Like getting out a turn 3 Wicked Wolf or a turn 3 Questing Beast, or perhaps like, even if you get a really good hand like a turn 4 Kogla, that's pretty damn good. You can also get Great Henge on turn 4, and like every other deck that can play Great Henge, if you play it, you pretty much win. Then to round things off, we've got Scavenging Ooze and Vivien. This is obviously just great against, I mean, anything graveyard based, but specifically Rakdos. And Vivien is also just fantastic, allowing you to play Kogla, to drag out a Questing Beast, or play a Questing Beast, to drag out a Lovestruck Beast, and so on and so forth. So yeah, this deck is extremely, extremely good against other creature-based decks, and it's also fairly good against control decks as well, because you have a surprising amount of like recovery, so they can like board wipe you, but with the Trail of Crumbs, with the Great Henge, and with Feast and Troll King, you have a lot of recovery and value at the cards that you're playing, which is the reason why I really specifically like this build. Not only that, Bonders Enclave fits perfectly into this deck, and this also allows you to easily recover cards whilst the control player is like running out of board wipes. You're just like, I'm just gonna add some more cards to my hand. It's really quite effective. Now obviously it is mono green, and for playing like a monocolored deck you're gonna have like a lot of drawbacks, and one of the main drawbacks in this deck is, I guess, creature removal, but only if they're playing bigger guys than you. And the only time that's ever been an issue is been playing against like Selesnya counter decks, where the whole point is to like make their guys like bigger than anybody else's guys. At that point the deck almost can't win, so watch out for that. Again, like you could play a more best of one oriented version of this deck. You could easily play like Primal Might or Ram Through. You could also play things such as Gem Razor, which I don't really know what you take out, like maybe like a Scavenging Ooze or something, but the point is that you get to play Gem Razor, which is obviously decent because that gives you like a huge amount of coverage in other areas, but ultimately just kind of running your opponent down with Feast and Troll King and getting tons of advantage off Great Henge and Trail of Crumbs, generally speaking, will do it for you. You're able to put out a huge amount of pressure, and a lot of the pressure that you put out deals with their pressure, so ultimately that's a pretty good combo. So this deck actually has a surprising amount of coverage for being mono green. Obviously, going into like best of one or like game 1, you're going to have drawbacks, but the thing is that you can side in to help mitigate those drawbacks, such as like artifact enchantment removal with Gem Razor and a little bit extra like fighty cards for guys. However, best of one is where I played this, and honestly, it done super well. Like, I have no complaints on this deck. This felt unbelievably solid. So let's show you that. So getting right into it, we're starting out with a Goose. Obvious turn 1 play. Now, we could have went for a Lovestruck Beast turn 2, but, you know, there's obviously no point in doing that because you need to make the 1-1, so it's not. If it was a Llanowar Elves, then yeah, I think, you know, the Lovestruck Beast is probably like a fine choice, I guess. But the cool thing is that having 2 geese along with the Trail of Crumbs is like super good because no matter what, I can just burn him out of resources at this point. I also think that him taking the Lovestruck Beast was like the wrong play. Like, I would have taken the Wolf because, like, the Wolf is removal as well as a guy. The Lovestruck Beast is just a guy. So I don't really know what the logic behind taking the Lovestruck Beast was, frankly, but it is what it is. We win this game anyway. So then he plays, like, the Roiling Vortex, which is, like, whatever. It's really no big deal for me. So down comes the Lovestruck Beast. Initially, I was thinking of playing maybe a little bit more conservatively, but you kind of don't have to if you've got the Trail of Crumbs just kind of ticking along. Eventually, you'll burn him out of resources, like, super easily. We're also completely overstocked on the Wicked Wolves, so even if he does play a Croxa, like, we can theoretically out it in the clunkiest way possible, but it is outable. I'm not really sure how I feel about that, the black inscription, honestly. Like, it's just kind of inefficient at this point. You kind of need to be, you know, kickering it for a lot to get a lot out of it. And, okay, sure, he gets rid of the Lovestruck Beast, but if the cool thing is, if this was a Wicked Wolf, I could just make it indestructible. But the fact we've got the Questing Beast is, that's pretty, I mean, Questing Beast is obviously, like, insane. Like, if you've got a deck that can play it, you should probably just be playing it. Like, the instant haste, like, deal 4 is just so much fucking tempo. The weird thing is that you would expect Rakdos to have done something more by this point, so I don't really know why he's been so passive. Like, has his hand just been, like, land the whole time? And even with him, like, I mean, perhaps he's just been playing, like, super conservatively, but with Trail of Crumbs on board, he, like, can't really do that. So, okay, so he board wipes me, but here's, like, a perfect example of, like, it just doesn't really matter all that much. Now, I have mana fucked so hard in this game, which is, like, a bit of an issue, I guess. But ultimately becomes, like, less of an issue the longer the game goes on. Because we still had 3. But it just goes to show you how much recovery, like, as I was saying, like, I know I'm not playing against a control deck, but with him board wiping, it just didn't matter because the whole game I was just, like, adding cards to my hand. So, like, even though he's, like, getting good value out that board wipe, I still have more cards by the end of it, just from how the deck plays. So here's, like, Bonders Enclave coming in, super, super good. And also, I am, like, so fine with trading this wolf in, like, I am so fine with it. Now, you could theoretically go, you know, the Roiling Vortex will kill me eventually, but I just have so many cards, like, I mean, I don't care about the Roiling Vortex, it's also hitting him, you know. And with the Vivien just also been able to make free guys, it's just, like, super ultimate value. Really, this particular game is to just show how good the value generation of this deck can be. Like, admit, you know, he's not been, like, super aggressive or whatever, but he's had, like, a whole lot of removal in hand. And if, you know, we didn't have Trail of Crumbs and we were just playing, like, maybe mono red or whatever, that board wipe could probably have just swung the game in his favour, if I'm being totally honest. But with this deck, nah, not at all. Like, I've just got so many avenues for generating card advantage that it's just pretty good. Look, even they've got Extinction Event as well. He's playing, like, potentially 8 board wipes. Doesn't matter. Now, here's an interesting thing. The Scourge coming down is, like, an issue, because this was what I was saying. Like, if they make a guy that's just, like, straight up bigger than yours, it's quite hard for this deck to really deal with. But, I mean, I don't feel too bad in this situation, honestly, but at the same time, I'm just kind of thinking to myself, like, right, what do we do here? You know, I don't have that much mana all I can really do is kind of make some guys or whatever, but ultimately it doesn't matter. Like, I can make an amount of blockers, so I've got, like, more guys than he has, whatchamacallit. So I've got, like, I have more guys than he has defenders at that point. And having Vivien, where he's, like, he has to block that in. So, there you go, Vivien not coming in clutch, just coming in, like, doing exactly what it's supposed to do, when it's supposed to do it. So here we are, game 2. And, yeah, I think this hand is, again, pretty good. Kept the Kogla because I feel like I've got a little bit of ramp. It's just good to definitely have. Even playing turn 5. Yeah, it's probably going to be quite good turn 5. As long as we draw enough lands, but the deck plays like a good amount of them. Like, this deck feels like super balanced, if I'm being totally honest. And then, like, if you go, like, a Goose, Trail of Crumbs, like, you can set up, like, so much harder than your opponent. And that is, like, a massive boon that this deck has over other decks. Now, here we're playing against, like, I guess, is it Blitz? Which, you know, the standard version, which is still, it's an explosive deck. I mean, it's nothing compared to what the, like, what it was. And even at that, it was never especially good, but, like, yeah, like, I think the deck is, like, still pretty real. Like, it can just OTK out of nowhere, but we do a really good job at, like, mitigating that. Now, the cool thing is that we still have, like, the Kogla play, so it's like, what are you gonna do? So he counters it, that's what he's gonna do, and that's, like, still fine. Now, it certainly does put up, like, an amount of a fight in this game, and, I mean, that is what it is, like, good on him. But the cool thing is we get the Wicked Wolf exactly when we needed it, because if that thing became, like, a 5/5, probably game over at that stage, unless we've got, like, 2 food, which is obviously harder to, like, actually do. But not only did we kill his guy, we had another Questing Beast to hand, which is obviously massive. So he needs to, like, set up. He's only on 3 mana. Like, we're in a really, really good position here. Or, I mean, 4 mana, I guess. But he's 4 mana, 4 cards in hand with a Planeswalker, and we're, what, 5 mana, 3, as well as, like, a guy in a Trail of Crumbs. We're in, like, a much better position as far as I'm concerned. The Questing Beast, like, amazing here. Now, there is, like, a caveat here where if he has, like, a shock or something, he can make that thing bigger, block into something. So, like, a shock or something, but I have to take the risk here, like, because the Royal Scions plus that could end up just stealing the game quite easily. So I'm like, right, nah. This has to be dealt with. And at this point, I'm like, right, this is, like, quite an explosive amount of cards. I'm down to 6. I need to kill him this turn. But do I kill him this turn? I think I do. So this is, yeah, right, okay, so we get rid of the Royal Scions, and then I'm like, right, okay, can I munch enough this turn so that it's more and more unlikely that he would be able to kill me, if he just has, like, an instant or whatever to play. So he would have to have, like, 2 instants to kill me, and luckily he didn't. So like, again, so that one could have, like, theoretically went the wrong way, but I think we played it correctly. We managed to, like, drain him out of, like, an amount of resources. As you can see, like, again, this deck is just super good for it being, like, I mean, it's not really an aggro deck, it's more of a mid-range deck, but it's so good at being able to maintain card advantage, which is where this deck excels over, like, Gruul, over Mono White that can just burn out of resources so hard. You just don't get that issue with this particular deck. So you get all the benefits of aggro with all the benefits of, like, maybe, like, control as well. But then you just miss all the mid-range options. So here we are playing against Esper, and this is, like, another prime example of this deck actually doing, like, super well against control. This is, like, the shining example of what this deck can do against what should be its, like, worst matchup. And there we go, Bonders Enclave down, which is really super good in this situation. I was kind of worrying if I should like hold back or not, but there was no point in not using the 3 mana. So I was like, fuck it, right? Like, it is what it is. The annoying thing about Elspeth's Nightmare being able to take a land out my hand, that was like, ugh, kind of grim, but it's a really good card. But I suppose the token was free, right? So it's like neutral at this stage. So obviously he's playing Esper colours, so my main course of action right now is to just deal as much damage as possible. But obviously he hit the 1/1, he got rid of the Questing Beast. Things ain't looking too great, but the thing is we've got Bonders Enclave, so it's not looking too bad either. Now, it was probably actually, it was probably correct there to have the Timber come in untapped, because like theoretically, if I drew another Lovestruck Beast or like a 1/1, which can only be a Lovestruck Beast, but if I drew it, I could have swung in for 10. But it's like fine, because the Bonders Enclave drew me a card, so ultimately like not so bad. And the cool thing is, against like, control, I'm able to play enough lands over enough turns that, you know, I actually get to play this card. And now it just straight up like comes back. Like, he is just down a card from that. Like that's amazing. That's really amazing. And even with Teferi, like, cycling, so you can just cycle for answers instead of lands, like, every single turn. Just doesn't matter. Now, if that thing had haste, or there's a way of giving it haste, like, oh my god, it would be incredible, but it would be super fucked. Hopefully Kaldheim gives us something that can give it haste, but I don't see it happening. Now, the Teferi does prove to be quite difficult to out, like, not gonna lie, but so here's the thing, right? The longer a game goes on, such as against control, where you have mana to play guys and mana to Bonders Enclave, game fucking over. Game over. And the cool thing is with the Troll King, doesn't cost any mana to bring back. So you can just like bring it back, Bonders Enclave, and that interaction is like fucked. Because that's like 2 free cards essentially, especially if they've used a card to like out the Troll King. They're down a card, you just get the Troll King back and then draw a card. Crazy. 0 mana. Oh, well, it's not 0 mana, it's mana for the Enclave, but you get to do it. Now, the funny thing is as well, is by him phasing out, the Troll King, he then can't get rid of it, which is really kind of funny. Like, he has to do it, sure, but it's also, like, not technically correct. Well, it has its drawbacks for his particular strategy anyway. But, so the annoying thing is we can't Enclave now, but we got 2 in response to the Teferi, so it's not so bad. But as you can see, like, Enclave putting in so much work here. The annoying thing is they got rid of the Questing Beast, but it's still fine. Like, it's so fine. Like, we are in such a fine position to be in. So then he, like, phases it out again, but at this stage, like, who cares? We can just start setting up threats that he needs to get rid of. So even if he, like, has to board wipe me right now, just doesn't even matter, because we've still got the Troll King. So as you can see, this deck is, like, putting in the work against this matchup. Now, had he dropped, like a Doom Foretold, the concept of, like, how good or bad this would be, I don't know. I think personally, Esper Doom is the best deck right now. Despite what the numbers say, I think that every single time I go to play against Esper Doom, it beats me. Like, every fucking time. Now, this I think is very interesting, because I guess obviously he does have to bounce one of the Troll Kings, but at the same time, like, playing it again then just gives me another 3 food, and that is, in a sense, almost just, like, fate sealed unless he has an extinction event. So look at that, man. We managed to out-grind a control deck with this deck, and we didn't even see Trail of Crumbs either. Fucking mental. So, looking at this, like reflecting upon this hand, honestly, I think I should have mulliganed this. I'm not really entirely sure why I kept it. I think the logic being is that I can turn 4 Henge, which I guess does make sense, and I hadn't played against mono red like at all by this point, so I'd kind of forgotten that it was even a thing. So then when he just started putting down these guys, I'm like, oh shit. But the cool thing about playing mono green against mono red is that most of the time they just can't out your dudes. So playing the Henge on curve was like specifically important because that is going to get us like bigger guys than him, lets us put down more guys than he can deal with, as well as a little bit of healing every single turn. And again, you know, the cool thing about this deck is you've got a lot of like, you can, how do you say, like, outlast a lot of decks because you've got all the food to heal with as well, which obviously is not even like it comes up, it's just something the deck does, like, consistently. Obviously, Kogla being insane against mono red, absolutely like GG. As soon as the Kogla comes down, that is game. There is nothing he's able to do at this point. Probably even with like a Torbran, even with an Embercleave, even with, if you somehow manage to get Torbran and Embercleave, I still don't think it would matter. Like, Great Henge is just far, far too good of a card. Probably like the best like top end like kind of build around card that is currently in standard at this particular point, if I'm being totally honest. But yeah, I mean, if you're the mono red player, like, how do you think you're able to win this currently? Because you just really can't. Handful of threats, GG. So this hand is like super nice. Like, look at the amount of coverage we've got here. So 2 lands on the lower side of things, and here we go. Like, we're against like what is like the best deck, which is like considered to be Gruul currently. But Gruul is very good. Do not get me wrong. Gruul is very good, but I don't think there is a best deck. Well, Esper's the best deck, but out of what is considered to be the best decks, I don't think there is like a best one of them. You know, we look on like the tier lists of what is currently going about, and like Gruul's good. I mean, this card is like amazing, but ultimately, Wicked Wolf is just like a solid out. A solid out. So down comes the Ooze, which is not really an issue. It going to like a 3/3 is the best it can do right now, and against our hand really isn't an issue. Now, killing the Goose is like a bit of an issue there. It would have been nice to be able to play the Henge, which we could have done if we ate food, but ultimately, just not that big a deal. We've got again, the Lovestruck Beast is like so good against aggro decks. It's good in aggro decks, it's good against aggro decks. Lovestruck Beast is so fucking good, man. Like, a 5/5 for 3 mana is unbelievable, even with the downside. And now, because we've got the Beast out, it allows us to 4 mana Great Henge, which is insane. That's on curve Henge. Illegal. That just shouldn't be allowed, if I'm being totally honest. So at this stage, I'm like, I doubt that even with an Embercleave, he wouldn't be able to kill me. That was the logic. Like, even if he puts an Embercleave on the Bonecrusher Giant, I don't think I care, because I can gain back 5 by eating with the Henge. So that's like 3 for the food, 2 for the Henge. So I'm like, I just don't see him being able to kill me from this point. So I'm like, fuck it, just swing in. And you know the thing is, I was absolutely right. The fucker does put an Embercleave on it. So he puts it on, right, so he puts it on that, which is like fine. I'm I'm taking 14 damage, but ultimately it just so incredibly doesn't matter. So, yeah, like, looking at the hand as well, I forgot that, like, I was really hoping that I played the Kogla, because I'm like, if I don't play the Kogla, it's just like such a, it would be such a bad play if I don't play the Kogla, but obviously I do. We swing in, and I'm like, the Kogla plus the Lovestruck Beast can block whatever he puts the Embercleave onto, so I'm free to swing in, get in some extra damage, and the rest of my hand is just fucking insane the next turn, so I really do not need to care. He was probably expecting me to just block one thing in, I would imagine. Tell me I block both in, right? I'm sure I do block both in. Yeah, so we block both in, that allows me to, because only one dies from that exchange, and it kills the Bone Crusher Giant, but if I only block one in, then he still gets damage in, and it still kills one thing, so that's like a super efficient block, like remember that kind of thing. But look at this, look at the amount of cards that I'm able to generate, and I mean I'm against an aggro deck, and I guess this is like more a mid-rangey deck or whatever, but you get all the benefits of aggro. It's crazy good, like his deck is just so good. Performing way better than the other mono green food deck that I played against as well. And there we go, that is GG. So hopefully you enjoyed this particular episode of, I'm going to dub it, Getting Better at Magic with Gay for Grixis, where I suppose it's a little bit of a different take on the usual sort of, like, Magic deck profile format. I've not really seen anybody play, like, exclusively with pre-recorded footage, and in the attempt to sort of, like, reflect upon and assess the footage with a new set of eyes. And that, you know, allows me to speed the footage up, keeps the pace going, shorter videos with more content in them. Hopefully that's a good mix. Bye. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you enjoyed this format. And I guess I'll see you in the next one. Catch you guys later.